humble responsibility to speak in lives. It's my absolute honor and joy to introduce a remarkable individual to you. She is Sinduja TS, whose life beautifully blends academic brilliance, professional excellence, and deep spiritual development. She is Sinduja is an accomplished educationist with a strong foundation in history. She was a BSc Honors in Chemistry from SSSIHL Institute of Higher Learning and professional support. A passion for education led her to pursue a BA from Bangalore University to gain emerging as a university doctor and movements. This was followed by a master's in chemistry from Nava University. Her professional journey began in 2005 in an international school where she wore many hats over 12 dedicated years, culminating in her role as head of quality management in academics and education. In 2018, she joined the Foundation School, a CBSE institution at work, and has been serving as its principal since 2022, leading with both and thought. But beyond the realm of academics, Shri Sinduja's life has been deeply inspired and guided by the Lord Jesus Christ. Her journey with Swami began in Nairobi, Kenya, where she attended alumna's classes from 1994 to 1996. In 1999, she met the Prince Blessed John Bhagwan's father for her undergraduate studies. Then she was also hired about music role and had the divine opportunity to sing in his presence. In 2010, she was a part of Initiate 14 that shaped the SSSIHL Vidha Bhakti program, offering her dedicated service for over 8 years in the academic development, teachers training and coordination. Since 2018, Swami has invested her with many opportunities to read success and shared her personal experiences, touching countless hearts and inspiring spiritual growth in others. She is Sinduja embodies the essence of being an instrument of Swami's love in the field of education and spiritual service. We are truly blessed to have her in our midst today. Please join me in warmly welcoming Srimati Sinduja TS.
Please lie down. It is an absolute pleasure to be back here today. For me, it's a second homecoming. I had the opportunity to speak before this gathering in the summer of last year. And with my humblest remarks offered at Bhagwan's lotus feet on this very, very special occasion of the 28th anniversary of Sai Gitanjali, I offer my deepest gratitude to Swami for allowing me to be a part of this evening. I've often used to wonder, what do these anniversaries actually mean? Are they just numbers? Is it a way for us to feel, yes, another year has passed and we are fortunate to be here? Or is it also a platform given to us to reminisce about the beauty of Bhagwan's presence in our lives? So as I was thinking back to what my journey with Swami has been, it has almost been in parallel to the number of years this holy space has been in existence. I think 1998, 1995, 1997, when is it? 28 years back, right? So around 94, I had joined as a Bhavika's student. But my true immersion in Swami began around 1997. 94, it was more because my family got into Swami's fold, and it was very organic that you would get into it through Balvikas and attend bhajans and so on and so forth. But in 1997, when I had finished my 10th standard and I was going into my grade 11, that is when I truly started questioning what is the meaning of this spiritual presence in my life. Should I just follow it because my parents are asking me to? Does it actually mean anything to me? So from that space of inquiry to now standing before you today, it has indeed been a roller coaster journey with Bhagwan. For me, while I think my profile was mentioning about academics and being an educationist, one would believe that scholarliness is one part of it, but very far from the truth. I love to study and I love to interact with people. But from a spiritual standpoint, in terms of the scholarly abilities that many, many people possess, I am not even an iota in comparison to them. For me, Swami's own words in the most simplified ways were the only things that truly resonated with my being. So one of the things that Swami used to talk about, which fascinated me hugely, was this path of Nava Vidha Bhakti. So I used to wonder, and you know that I think pretty much all of us remember in Swami's beautiful voice when he would talk about the ninefold path. There is that little tune in which he would sing it, Shravanam Kirtanam, right? And I don't even want to attempt singing it the way he would, but it was so beautiful. It used to capture my attention every time, and I would find myself repeating it over and over again in my mind, wondering what it actually meant. It sounded very good to listen to, but I couldn't truly relate to what each of those things meant. Yes, there have been stories about how different devotees took different paths to become closer to Bhagwan. But it is only in the recent past that I've discovered that each one of us as devotees actually goes through every single one of those steps in our path of devotion. So today I would like to share a few experiences which embody each of those 9 paths and how Swami has ensured that through that the focus is constantly kept on him. So we go back, as I had said, to 1997. I was just starting my 11th standard. And just then, when I was beginning to get an admission into that first school for 11th grade, the grade 10 results came out and I was declared the school topper and I had a CBSE rank also. So I was in a very good space mentally. Obviously, when you had success, everybody does feel happy. The institution that I was guided to join was a very strange way in which I got in. So the place where I had studied my class 10, the chairperson of that school owned a sister concern. And that school where he wanted me to study in the 11th grade, they were known for picking only the creme de la creme. They would only take the absolute toppers and then try to send them to IIT and so on. I had very little interest in that direction, so I actually said I don't want to get into that school. But he insisted. He said, take the entrance exam and then we will see. So I took the entrance exam and I actually failed the entrance exam. And I was quite happy because I didn't have to go into that school. But strangely enough, he kept pursuing. I mean, this is the chairperson of the school. Why should he pursue? He pursued, he called up my father and he said, I want your daughter to study in this school. I just think it's a freak incident that she didn't get through. So I want her to study in this school. So I'm giving her a seat even without the admission test. And I really didn't know how to get away from that. Got into the school, but I didn't know what I was in store for. So the teachers in that institution got to know that I had sought admission into their august campus without having passed the admission test. And what followed was 2 years of complete isolation. They would not clarify a single doubt that I had. If I would stand up in class, they would ignore me and answer questions that other people were asking. I still remember this vividly. It was a physics class, and when I got up to ask a question, and the teacher said, "You're so brilliant, you got in despite failing the admission test. You should know the answers to it all." So this didn't happen once or twice, but day in and day out. And they tried their level best to also make me fail grade 11 so that then I would leave the school. Somehow, at that point in time, I didn't think it was Swami's grace, but somehow I scraped through grade 11 and continued into grade 12, managed to study, and ended up with a decent result at the end of grade 12. So much so that when I went to receive my certificate, the CBSE marks card from the vice principal of the school, she looked at it and she said, I got about, I think, 84% aggregated. She said, "Oh, you managed to pass." So that was the level of reception that I was getting from them. So the background here, and I've said specifically 97, those 28 years ago when this started, for somebody who had been a topper all through till grade 10, I completely developed a dislike for studying because those 2 years were absolute torture. So I said, I never want to study. Forget IIT, I don't want to do anything. I want to sit at home. I remember telling my mother, I said, I will learn to cook and take care of the home. And, we'll see from there what happens. And if absolutely required, I'll do some diploma and then I'll have something to my name. So obviously my parents weren't truly happy about the fact that I wanted to drop out after 12th standard. In the meantime, there was an ex-student from Anantapur who happened to meet my parents and said, the applications for Anantapur College will be opening up soon. So I finished my 12th grade, waiting for the results, and this had happened. And then she said, very soon the applications will come through. Maybe you should try and get your daughter into Anantapur campus. And I said, nothing doing. I am not, first of all, 2 years I suffered. Now I'm not going to go away to some hostel and stay far away from my parents. And, then every day I think I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. This is not happening. So this was the state I was in. How does this relate to Nava Vidha Bhakti? So the very first step is Shravanam. Shravanam, normally they say, is listening to the stories of God. But I had a different experience. It was listening to the voice of God. So around this time, my sister had finished her degree in a college from Bangalore. And I had finished my 12th standard, and my parents decided they will apply for both of us to Anantapur campus. For me, for the undergraduate, and for her to the postgraduate program. And my sister was extremely diligent. She studied day in and day out, and she said, at any cost, I will make Swami proud and get into this college. And I was doing the exact opposite. Every day I would sleep till 10 o'clock. When I would get up also, I would quickly eat something, go back to sleep, or I'd be watching TV, just basically whiling away my time, saying I have earned this rest after 2 years of trepidation and torture, so I don't want to study anymore. Now the blood pressure at home was rising because the entrance exam date was coming closer and I wasn't doing anything about making it easier for anyone. And I still remember my sister begging me saying, Sindhu, please study at least a little bit. We know that you're more than capable, but at this rate you will fail. And little did she know that that's exactly what I was hoping for. So this carried on. And I think it was about 1 week before the entrance exam was due. And I had the most vivid dream of Bhagwan. To this day, right now, in this moment, I'm able to recall every bit of it. So Swami was standing in the middle of the hall. This was inside our house. The dream was actually inside our house in the hall. And he was standing there and radiating absolute brilliance. And I go towards him. And then when he turns and looks at me, the entire glow that is around Bhagwan turns red. blood red. And Swami's eyes turned red. And there is an absolute form of Rudra. I can't begin to explain. I mean, words don't do it justice. I could actually feel myself shivering and shaking to a point where I couldn't meet his eyes. And Swami looked at me and he said, useless. And he said, he materialized a gold chain and he said, I want to give this to you, but you don't deserve it. Look at your sister, be like her. Learn from her dedication, do what you're expected to do, and this will be yours to take from me. And the dream ended. So I heard Bhagwan's voice, Shravanam. And believe me, I woke up the minute that dream ended, and I was actually drenched in perspiration. The entire cot that I was lying on, my clothes, everything was drenched in perspiration. And I was shaking. I was so scared. It was 4 a.m. I literally jumped out of bed, went and had a shower and sat down to study. I had just 7 days to make up for 2 months of lost time. And I studied day in and day out, day in and day out. I really don't remember how much went into my head because I had taken a clean break from everything that I was doing earlier. So when I went for the entrance test, the English test was easy enough because it just tested skills and that was fine. But the math, physics and chemistry that I had to write, it was a complete blank. So I literally attempted the test this way. I said, Swami, you have asked me to study. You have threatened me. And I have to live up to your expectations. So I'm just going to say Sai Ram and keep ticking. Because those were multiple choice papers. And I just said Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. Just keep ticking because I couldn't understand a single question. And there is a background to this, as I mentioned earlier. I said I didn't want to go to the hostel life and stay there. And I used to say this, what is the point of staying with 7, 8 other people in a room and adjusting when I can be in the comfort of my home? So all these kind of conversations had been happening. So the test and the exam was over, and the wait for the result was bigger torture than the 2 years that I had spent at that school, not knowing what the outcome was going to be. So when the result sheet was finally put up, that I think morning around 10 o'clock, we had finished the test, and it was 4:35 in the evening. And I still remember the entire time outside of the institute lawns, I was sitting and waiting, refused to go to eat or drink anything till the result came out. So then they said that notice about the Anantapur results are out. I went running, but I still didn't have the guts to see. So I started looking at the bottom of the list because hoping if at all my name would be somewhere over there. And kept going up afterwards. I said, this is becoming a thinner possibility. And at the top of the list, I saw my name. I was flabbergasted because only Bhagwan and I knew that was nothing short of a miracle. I just burst out crying. And the next day, just see the 180 that Bhagwan can make you do. I was called in for the interview round. After the test, they meet with you personally to see, are you a good fit for the institute? And they asked me, why do you want this seat? And till the week prior to that, I had all the reasons I didn't want to go there. So I said, because I feel Swami has called me and I need to listen to him. And they said, do you know that it will be a slightly tougher schedule than you're used to? I said, I'm looking forward to waking up at 5 o'clock every morning and adjusting with everybody and staying with them in the room. Exact opposite of what I had said at home. I said, at any cost, I need to get through this interview. And within a week after that, the confirmation letter came. So this was Shravanam, blindly listening to the word of God without questioning it. Because we don't know what it is that He has in store for us. And so it did happen. The next 3 years did have their ups and downs, but the dream that He had given to me came true. And from Bhagwan's divine hands, I received the gold medal after 3 years. which was the chain that I realized. The next step in this journey, Kirtanam. By Swami's immense grace, I've always been blessed to be able to sing. And I think in our community, bhajan singing is so beautiful because it is not so much about the self, but about being able to connect everybody who is present to the divine energy. So there was this experience in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7. I was working by that time, and one fine day when I was at work, I started having these sort of pangs of pain in my abdomen, lower abdomen. And it started growing in intensity when I was there at school. And towards the end of the day when I came home, I was almost doubled up. I wasn't able to even stand up straight. So we were already staying in Swami's hospital quarters. My father works in Swami's hospital at Whitefield. He has been there since the project stage in 2000 till today. So we were staying in the quarters, and my father said, let's immediately take you to the general hospital. At that time, general hospital was in a different campus. Now it has become a part of the super specialty. So we went rushing there, and there was a surgeon who was on call. One looked at me, and then with examination, he said, I think this might need a surgical intervention, but we can't do that in our hospital. It will need to be done in another hospital. So he guided us to another institution. And he said, the earlier you go there, the better, because this looks like it might lead to some severe complications. So we came back home quickly, and we were just taking a few things, packing just in case we had to stay overnight at the other hospital. And as we were about to leave, there was this lady who normally used to work in a lot of households in the quarters. Slightly old lady who was Christian by faith. She just came to our house and she took one look at me and she said, don't worry, everything is going to be fine. Jesus is going to take care of him. And then she said, I want 5 minutes to pray in your house before you step out. So we said, come inside. And she sat down. They have a very different way of praying. She offered her prayer and then she said, be well and everything will be fine. Carrying on. So we went to the other hospital in the city where we've been directed. And it had reached a point where I was unable to even take the next step. So I was going to do wheelchair when I reached there. And then they said, we have to wheel you to the radiology section. We have to get a scan. So we were waiting. And suddenly, when they called my name, my mother was trying to push the wheelchair, but it wouldn't go forward. So she kept trying, then I said, Ma, I think something is stuck near the wheel. And I just bent down, and on the floor, stuck just between the wheel and the floor, was a little tiny plastic cross. So I immediately picked it up and I held it in my hand. It seemed too much to be a coincidence. And I was wheeled into the area where they do the ultrasound. And the surgeon came back after about half an hour of looking at the reports, and she said, there's an extremely huge hemorrhagic cyst, and if we leave it beyond tomorrow, it will rupture and it could lead to internal bleeding and probably may not be able to survive if this is not immediately attended to. So they said, admit her immediately. We will not give her anything to eat or drink the whole of tonight. Tomorrow morning at 4:30, we will prep for surgery, 4:30 a.m. And by 6 o'clock, we will her in for surgery. So, okay. Swami's brought us this far, he'll take care. So the pain was so bad, they said we'll not be able to give too much of medication also because the system is a little weak right now. You might have to just put up with the pain. He said, okay. So where does the Kirtanam come in? I told my mother, I said, you know what, let's just sing bhajans. I know we're in a strange hospital and they'll be wondering why we're singing, but let's just sing anyway. So around, I think, 9 o'clock in the night, we started singing bhajans, my mom and I. And till 4:30 in the morning, till the person came to do the prep for the surgery, we were singing. It was almost like Shivratri, we were just singing the entire night. And when the nurse came in to prep me, at that point in time, we were singing a Sarvat Harma Bhajan. She came in and she looked at me strangely. She said, "Where is the patient?" I said, "It's me." She said, "You're singing." I said, "No, we just want to sing so that you're not sort of taken in by the pain." And so she was a little confused. She said, I think she still didn't trust that I was unwell because I seemed to look very fine. So she said, "Just wait for 2 minutes, I'll get the doctor and come." So the doctor had actually reported early that day because she wanted to be in time for the surgery. And she came straight in and she said, "Did you have a restful night?" I just said, "Yes, we've sort of managed." She said, "I'll examine you once again and then we will decide, exactly how to go about it." So she applied pressure, she pressed it, she did everything. I didn't even wince. There was no reaction. She said, "Are you feeling this? Is it that, something has happened, you're not able to feel anything anymore?" I said, "No, I can feel that you're touching me, but there's no pain." She kept pressing in different directions. But she said, "I'm sure you're not feeling anything." I said, "There's no pain. There's absolutely no pain." And she said, "Okay, you know what? Let's do one more scan." So at 5:30 in the morning, I was taken for the second scan. And she said, "It's completely clear. There's nothing there." And she said, "What happened? Wasn't there the wrong report? We can't tell her that the one," she said, "is Nava Vidha cured us." I said, "I think probably it just sort of dissolved itself." So by 6 o'clock, instead of going into the operation theatre, I was headed back home. So Kirtana, being so immersed in that music that it can actually cure that which looks incurable. So that was the second experience which started sort of solidifying this understanding in my mind later on when I was reflecting as to how this path is actually made for each one of us. Vishnu Smarana, which is the thought of God. Swami's been very, very kind. He has blessed my husband and me with 2 beautiful children. The first child, when she was delivered, it was a very, very difficult delivery, because of which we had to resort to a surgery, cesarean, for it to be delivered. And for pretty much, I think, 2.5 years, it took me to recover from that surgery. There were a lot of complications post-op as well. So a lot of women do undergo the surgery, but they're back on their feet within a month or two. It took me 2.5 years to come out of the aftermath of that. So when Swami blessed us with the second child, somewhere in, I don't want to call it my mind, because the mind is not, it's more human in nature. Something in terms of the perception I had within of Swami being with me. The minute I realized that I had conceived the second child, I just told Swami. I didn't tell anybody else. I told Swami, I said, "You know what? I want the second one to be a normal delivery because I don't want to go through that 2.5 years of testing." Now, in most medical circles, people will say, if you've had a surgery the first time, you cannot have a normal delivery the second time. I was unwilling to accept this. So I was consulting a doctor in our own Swami's hospital, and she also advised against it. She said, "It's very dangerous. That's why we don't suggest it, because there's already been a rupture in that space, and you don't want to sort of put pressure on it, which is why we say, don't opt for the normal delivery." I said, I understand. I'm a science graduate myself. Logic should be top of mind. But I really don't care. I believe Swami is beyond reason. He can make this happen. Thankfully, because she was a Swami devotee, she said, "Okay, I have to allow your faith to take precedence over all else." So she said, "I will look for a doctor in another hospital who might be willing to take your case. This is unheard of in any medical scenario where a doctor will give up their own patient to direct them to somebody else. Only in our hospital such things will happen because it's not monetary in nature. Right? They're looking out for the well-being of the person. Within 3 days after my first consult with our doctor, she said, I have managed to find someone, but she consults obviously in a more elite hospital. And based on whether your financial situation will allow, you decide and see if you want to meet with her. Now, actually speaking, financially also was not in a position to go to that hospital. But since I had taken it into heart that I want this to happen, naturally, I said, let's take the plunge and go meet with that doctor. That doctor was not a devotee, nothing to do with Swami's hospital at all. Went and met with her. And she said, yes, I do take such what we call as high-risk cases. But you have to follow what I'm saying very strictly for the next course of 8 to 9 months. And also be mentally prepared that at the last minute, if things don't go well, I might have to switch over to surgery mode. I said, okay. And then she said, where do you stay? What is your background? What does your husband do? And so in the course of that, it came out that my husband's working in Swami's hospital and we're staying there. So she said, okay, don't you get free medical care there? I said, yes. So this was the next part. She said, okay, whatever I have to do for you comes into the picture only in the last 1 month. So because you already have the facility of a hospital that will take care of everything for you free of charge, next 8 months you'll be with SSSIHL Hospital and come to me in the 9th month. Unheard of again. Which doctor at a commercial hospital will say, don't pay me consultation and come to me for the next 8 months and come to me only the last one. So I said, okay, Swami seems to be guiding this entire process, so let's take it forward. So she used to just send messages now and then saying, are you following XYZ instructions? And are you visiting your doctor regularly? And it went on. The last 1 month, I diligently went to her every single week. And then finally, she said, you know what? We'll get you admitted because it was well past the 41st week. It had gone well past the time that the delivery was supposed to happen. And there was absolutely no sign that the little one inside me was waiting to come out. It was very comfortable inside. And she said, let's have you admitted and let's see what happens from there. And they had to do this procedure where they would want to induce labor and see where is it that it goes. I think around, this was on the 6th of June, 2016. This pain induction happened at around 4:15 a.m., 4:15 in the morning. And time passed, kept going. It didn't seem to be progressing at all. And 3:15 p.m. in the afternoon, she came and said, what is happening, Sinduja? It looks like we will have to go to surgery route. I just took one look at her. I said, I want another 15 minutes. She said, what's going to happen in 15 minutes? Nothing has happened in the last 10 hours. What is going to happen in 15 minutes? I said, I don't know. I'm thinking of something. I want 15 minutes. The thinking that Vishnu Smaranam was happening. I wanted to visualize Swami and I wanted peace and quiet to visualize him, and I didn't want the doctors anywhere near me. So I sent everybody out of the room, including my mother. I said, please leave me alone. And I just visualized Bhagwan standing in front of me and I said, Swami, if anybody can make this happen, it is you. You cannot do this to me. After 10 months plus of waiting, you brought me to the stage. I do not want to go the other route. You know, I have told you about this the day we figured out that this was going to happen. I trust you implicitly. Now you have to show me that you are here with me. 15 minutes later, she walked in and she said, I will examine, and if things haven't progressed, surgery it is. She examined and she said, you know what, you're ready for a normal delivery. Everybody was in shock. including the daughter. The ability to stay immersed in Swami is there within each one of us. That fearless connect to God has to be there, where the dissenting voices should not take our attention away from what has been set as our goal. There are enough people around us who will say this is not possible. But there is that one voice which will say anything is possible. But for that, immense immersion is required. I'm not saying that I have done it all. There are many, many times that I'm doing the exact opposite, where I'm constantly in doubt. But that experience which Swami put me through helped me realize that the power to stay focused on Him does lie within if we decide to tap into it. So that was Vishnu Smarana. Pada Sevanam. When the physical form was with us, I think pretty much every one of us who was around at that time with Bhagavan always wanted an opportunity to touch His divine feet. I think it goes without saying we wanted that experience. The year I joined college, it was 1999, and early 2000, Swami declared in a discourse that I will not be giving Pada Namaskar anymore. I was completely devastated. So devastated because he publicly declared it, which means even if the opportunity presented itself, we could touch His feet. After that is when, the security used to be greater around Bhagavan so that people would not reach out and touch His feet. And I said, what is this, Swami? You're supposed to be students of yours, even we are not getting this opportunity. So this went on. There is that yearning, at least once in this lifetime to touch your feet and to get that direct blessing, from that divinity into oneself. So even when I received the gold medal from Bhagavan, we weren't allowed to touch His feet. There was a strict instruction given. This is the way you should go, this is the way you should receive. You can look at Swami, you can take the medal from him, you can sit next to him, but you cannot touch his feet. So we followed all those instructions. I had done seva for so many years after that act, but Prashanti Nilayam, Swami was literally within touching distance, and all the time I had to sit there without giving into that temptation. In 2011, February, this was just a little over 2 months before Bhagavan decided to leave the physical form. So 2011 February, as a part of Vidya Rahini, some of us were called upon by Bhagavan to come to Prashanti Nilayam, and the first teacher training workshop was conducted at Purnachandra Auditorium. So I was requested to be one of the resource people there to conduct the training, the initial training. I was obviously very touched to be given the opportunity. Did the level best that Swami inspired me to do. And we were thinking, okay, session is over, we will get darshan and then go back home. And then we got a call saying, Swami wants to give special darshan in the Purnachandra to the organizing committee with all the trainers. So in the evening of that day, around 5:30 or 6 o'clock, we were all seated in Purnachandra. And two of the people who were very close to Bhagavan, they quickly came running to me and they said, we want you to present a report to Swami on whatever has already been put in place for Vidya Bhakti. So you will get an opportunity to go near Swami. So you have to present, this is the file, you have to open it, you have to explain to Bhagavan about what all work we've done and show it to him. What are the questions Bhagavan asks, you need to be able to answer them. So okay, getting an opportunity to go near. And we were called. Swami was seated on his chair, went very close, opened the file, showed it to him. He asked a few questions, and then he gave me a few instructions about how to take Vidya Bhakti forward. And then he looked at me. I looked at him, he looked at me, both of us were just looking at each other for 4 to 5 seconds, and then he said, "Please go." Now, being the fool that I was, I didn't understand what Swami was saying, and I continued staring at him. And then he looked at me, and he looked down at his feet, and I immediately put my head on his feet. And when I was getting up, those beautiful white packets of vibhuti that are, that used to be so unique to Shantinavya, Swami took 3 of those packets in his hand from a basket and he flung them at my forehead. So they just hit me on the forehead and fell down. I was so stunned. The divinity, that energy, I can still understand to this day why it is that Swami made that happen. I think Harsha Aunty was reminding me earlier today, it is directly related to that incident. Pada Sevanam, what an opportunity to touch Bhagwan's feet. He flung the vibhuti at my forehead. This was February 2011. September 2011 was my wedding, September 2nd. And in the morning, during the Muhurtam, we had this kind of a stage, and there was a huge iron sort of backdrop on which satin curtains were hung. And right in the center, a huge photograph of Bhagwan, which is about 10 to 15 kilos in weight, was suspended. The iron frame was supported by a couple of stones on either side to level it off. So we were seated, that the Agni was there in front, and we were seated there just pretty much below that photograph. And somebody, for some reason, had pulled one of the stones out a little bit. They didn't realize it was holding up the flame. They had pulled it out to use it for something else and then push it back. So when we were seated there, suddenly that entire frame started coming forward. One of our friends who was at the back of the hall, we had our back to this frame, so we didn't know it was falling. He came running from the back and he managed to hold it before it would fall. Otherwise, the entire satin would have fallen on the fire with us underneath it. But in preventing it from falling and in this momentum, Swami's photo came off the hinges and landed on my head. From that height, it was at a height of about 7 feet above my head, and it landed. Hit me here in that same spot, bounced and went on the other side of the Agni and fell face upwards without a scratch on it. Auntie was there, I think she still remembers of that. There was obviously stunned silence because you don't expect things like this to happen, and I completely blanked out because I literally didn't know what had hit me. And with an injury of that kind, one would expect that something would have happened. So I was rushed through the CT scan where they said nothing, not a scratch, neither external injury nor internal. So that Pada Sevanam, that momentary connect with the Bhagwan, and everything had been nullified because he knew this was coming, and then protection was already in place. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Vandanam. Vandanam is offering salutation to God with complete humility and devotion, where you do not question His ways. There is so much surrender that you do not ask questions. You can express Vandanam only if there is no doubt. Swami loves to test, absolutely enjoys it. Is that Krishna avatar which likes to put you into trouble and then see how you react. It's a beautiful connect where the Lord stands and watches to see how well do you respond to things not going well. My older one, Prarthana, was a little over 2 years old, 2.5 years old, when one fine day she developed fever. Fever is common in young children. And she in particular, right from her 4th month, she used to get fever almost on a monthly basis for about a couple of days. So by 2.5 years, this was like almost like a monthly ritual for us to have fever almost. So the first 2-3 days, we didn't worry about it. The normal crocin and so on and so forth. And she used to have this episodes of spikes where it would go up to about 104 fever. Went to 103, 104, we said, okay, it's fine. 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7, 8, 9, 10 days over, the fever was not coming down. And then it had a pattern where for 12 hours it would stay at 105. And then it will come down for 3-4 hours. And then it will go up again to 105 and stay there for 12 hours. We were going to the pediatricians, we were going to the doctors. No, they did many battery of tests. Different tests. There's such a small child being poked repeatedly to find out what is inside, what is causing this. Everything came out clean. So, as a mother, I had 2 choices. One was to worry my head off and keep questioning Bhagwan why this is happening. The other was to be grateful that Swami is in our lives and keep offering salutations at his feet for taking care of things. Thankfully, he gave me the courage to choose the latter option. So every morning I would dutifully wake up, light the lamp, thank him for being with us, continue to sponge the child, check her temperature every hour, make sure that she's not uncomfortable. This entire saga carried on for 91 days. We went to specialists because we were directed to. There were many different tests done. Finally, they said that it's probably tuberculosis because there was a mild positive for it. The doctor who was Swami's devotee said, I'm almost certain it is TB, but my only thing is I still feel if we start off the treatment, there's no looking back, and it's a very potent treatment. It might cause lifelong side effects. So I'm leaving it to you to decide what do you want to do. I said, sir, who am I? Swami is guiding. Whatever he guides, let him do. And then the doctor said, this was on the 90th day that we were having this conversation. He said, 90 days the child has been having 105. You still don't want to take a call. I said, I am nobody to take a call. This is Bhagwan's prasadam to me. And I cannot decide how to deal with it. He has to tell. And he said, okay, something in my mind tells me we should wait for one more day before we start the treatment. I don't know what's going to happen in this one day, but we'll wait. I said, okay, sir, what are you saying? On the 91st day, the fever broke and stayed normal for 24 hours for the first time after those 3 months and continued to stay normal. And we averted the possibility of lifelong issues because we didn't start that medication. When I look back now, it was 90 days of testing to see whether surrender comes or not. So that was Vandanam. Being immersed in salutation with devotion, but put it in action. Talking about is easy. When you're actually there at the deep end, does it happen? Archana, offering prayers in the form of worship. And normally Archana is done with flowers, fruits, a little expression of that love. In our final year in Anantapur, this was in 2002, March, we were all eagerly awaiting Bhagwan's outgoing batch interview that he would give us. So as every batch moves for, we had gone to Puttaparthi. We were seated in the darshan hall. Swami came to us. Some of us were seated in the front. I was there with one of my other batchmates. And he said, first he asked us, and we were seated in the block meant for Anantapur. Swami came to us and he said, who are you? We are here looking for an interview and he's acting like he doesn't even know who we are. So that was the first show. Then we said, Swami, we are from Anantapur. We are your students. My students? Don't you have college? What are you seated here for? Swami, we are outgoing batch. Will you please speak with us? So today is not a good day. Swami is very busy. From Chennai, people have come to discuss water project. I will be in a meeting with them whole day. So you please go back to Anantapur. There was no option to go back because if we went back the next week, the exams were starting and then it would be the exit from Anantapur thereafter. So we realized this was going to be make or break. How do we ensure Bhagwan is going to listen to us? So as soon as Aarti got over, this was morning darshan, we went straight back to the dormitory. We told our teachers we will not go for any food, no breakfast, nothing. We just want to go sit there. We went to the top floor of the dormitory, set up an altar, and we started singing bhajans. Archanam in the form of tears. The entire batch sat and sang from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock without a break. We sang and sang and sang and sang. I don't know who was leading and who was following, God alone knows. We were all singing, then we chanted Hanuman Chalisa, then we started singing again, and we were just weeping, saying, Swami, how can you turn your children away? This is us, we are yours. At 1 o'clock, one of the teachers came running up and she said, Swami has sent a message. He wants you girls in the mandir by 1:30 for a private audience in his mandir. And it was indeed a private audience. We were there by 1:20. 1 o'clock message came in 20 minutes. 200 of us got ready, went running to the mandir. We went and sat inside the inner mandir where the bhajan singers would sing normally. And Swami came in, he shut the door and he put the boat. He said, it's for me. Archanam has its place when there is no other thought polluting the mind except Bhagwan, we want you to be with us. Dasyam. What was the meaning of Dasyam in my life? Dasyam is when you are in such a place of service that the I ceases to exist. My grandmother used to say this. Service should be in such a way that what the right hand does, the left hand should not do. It should not be public knowledge that you are doing service. So Swami, right from, I think, 2003, after I graduated, had given me lots and lots of opportunities to be a trainer for different groups for programs. So youth wing of the Malleshwaram Samiti, I trained them for many music programs. They had performed in front of Bhagwan and Vrindavan. When the nursing college had started also, so involved in quite a few programs over there. Even at the education wing, there were many things that I was working on. But interestingly, every single time Swami gave me this opportunity to serve, when the final program would happen, I would never be present. Something would happen. Either I would not be given leave from work, or I would fall ill, or my mode of transport will get cancelled at the last minute. Not a single program, whether it was Vrindavan or Puttaparthi, I had never been there for the final program. They will perform and then they'll come back and say, went very well. So it became like a given. This is what's going to happen. So 2008, when the first nursing college batch had joined, they had asked me to train them for this. They got an opportunity in 2010 to do their sports meet. They were asked to perform in the sports meet. And because it was a brand new campus, they had given them only 5 minutes to perform. So we had to put up a program in 5 minutes from entry to exit, everything in place. So Swami had come in a dream and he gave certain instructions saying, this is what you can do. Quickly got up, wrote it down, put everything together, trained them, did the entire sports meet program, and just Jan 5th, they were leaving for Parthi, and that is the week I got called off for exam duty and I could go. And they were all very upset. I said, no, you go to Bhakti and you practice. They kept calling me. 9th January, I went for one practice over there at the Hillview Stadium. Gave them practice and came back to Bangalore. 11th January, I was not there. I kept telling myself, Swami, this service is for you, Swami. I'm not doing this to get a name. I'm just happy you gave me an opportunity. Let that humility always be there. I want to be your servant. When the nursing college performed, apparently, and this is what the entire audience which was there, many of them who knew me, had came back and narrated it to me. Swami suddenly sat up in his chair and he kept looking at it very, very keenly. And after the program was over, he called 2 of the dignitaries over the stage and then called the principal of the nursing college and said, "This was trained by Sinduja, wasn't it?" When I heard this, he said to me, "Recognized by divinity. Who am I in this large ocean?" I'm sure the same Bhagwan, next day if I had gone to darshan, you would have asked me, "Who are you?" to bring me crashing back down. But that experience that you continue to do your work silently, Swami knows. That is all you need to know. The world need not recognize your service. It is Bhagwan's blessing that is important at the end of that service. So this was Dasyam. Sneham. Bhagwan's been a very, very close friend. And I think all of us have experienced this. We've all experienced times of loneliness, times of self-doubt. And the only thing that gives us solace is to be able to sit next to that altar and talk to him and say, "Swami, you listen to me because nobody else understands what I'm going through." We spoke about how Swami gave the gold medal, but like I said, there were many ups and downs on that journey. The greatest one being, one of the things you have to do to get that gold medal is make sure that your CGPA is the highest across all 3 campuses. It's not just in Anantapur. So 6 semesters. For the first 5 semesters, my CGPA was a perfect 5. In the 6th semester, I got jaundice. And I was away from college for 1.5 months. And I came back to college just 2 weeks before the end semester exam. This was chemistry honors. Even when you're completely healthy, understanding the course is very difficult. I couldn't understand a word of what was there in the book. And that branch of chemistry, organic chemistry, I couldn't figure out head or tail of what was going on. It just looked like many Rangoli patterns. And my teachers so kindly used to come to the hostel, to that sick room which I was in because I was still recuperating. This was a very severe case of it. And they would teach me one-on-one so that I would, because the teacher was more worried than me that my CGPA would fall. She taught me for 2 full weeks. I went to the exam hall. I couldn't understand anything in the paper. And these are not MCQ questions like the entrance exam. You actually have to write sensibly. And I said, you know what, I will just write whatever I feel. In between, I think I wrote a line from a bhajan also. Because it wasn't making sense. So, yes, there were 6 papers. 5 papers I managed to get the highest grade. The 6th paper where I had written the bhajan line, I still got a decent score, but my GPA fell. But this entire time, where is this name? When I was studying, I used to keep a little photograph of Swami next to me and I could talk to him. So see Swami, page number 494, paragraph 2, it doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain it to me? Okay, you also don't know? Let's go to the next page. This was the conversation I used to have with him. And I took that same photograph with me to the exam hall. Thankfully, because it is our institute, they will allow us to carry Swami's photo inside. So I kept looking at it and said, "Swami, paper does the making sense. Should I do this question? If I look at you and I feel like you're nodding at me, I will do this question. Otherwise, I'll skip the question." So this was my conversation with you. And then finally, when the result came, my GPA had broken away from the perfect 5. But interestingly, the only other person who was in another campus who was in competition with me for that gold medal, his CGPA also slipped in that semester by 4 points more than me. So unfortunate for him, but that friend took care of me. And that attachment to Bhagwan, where we can indeed treat him as a friend and it doesn't have to be a distance where we put him on a pedestal always, that was me. And finally, Atma Nivedana. I will truly experience it once this mortal coil is no longer holding me back. But to somebody who has been extremely fortunate to have a lot of success in life, being able to take failure is also an equal part, is what Swami wanted to teach me in the form of surrender. Atma Nivedanam is when your completeness in terms of there is no separation between you and me, and my surrender is so complete that whatever you do to me, it doesn't matter, I will take it as for my best. It was mentioned in my profile that I'm a master's in chemistry. I have done my BSc, got a gold medal. Did my BA, got a gold medal. But nothing is mentioned about what I did in my MSc. There's a reason. I enrolled for my master's in science and chemistry from Anantapur University. I attended all the courses. Everything was fine. When I was awaiting my final MSc results, I got my marks card along with a letter from the university stating, you have been declared fail in MSc because you were caught cheating in the examination hall. And first and foremost, innately, I do not have the intention to cheat. Swami has never given me the reason to. Thirdly, the exam hall I was seated in was in Tamil medium. So it was English, Tamil, I was seated like that. I can't read Tamil to that extent to save my life. I won't have cheated even if I wanted to. This was nothing short of a shock. And for it to come as a public notice, which means it has been published elsewhere also, Swami wanted me to be stripped of all ego to an extent where only he exists and I do not. I was called for an inquiry to the university to prove my innocence. How do I prove I did not cheat? So I went there. I sat in front of the panel that was questioning. I just looked at them and I said, sir, why did I cheat? And then he looked at me, the man who was waiting to ask me questions. His entire demeanor turned into one of compassion and he said, I personally think you have not cheated. But there were many, many cases in the room where you were seated because of which we are unable to figure out who cheated and who did not. Because of that, you have to appear for arrears. So my BSc gold medal, BA gold medal, ended in MSc failure and taking a re-exam and finally getting some sort of a first class pass. For Swami to teach me a lesson, then everything that this world has to offer is an illusion. Neither the gold, nor the silver, nor the copper, not anything which is even the form of dust matters. Because as far as Bhagwan is concerned, whether your soul is made of gold is what he will see. And that purity will keep us with him for lifetimes to come. So Atma Nivedana, when Bhagwan helped me realize I am nothing without him, all the worldly accolades mean nothing because he is the giver, he is the doer, he is the witness, and he is the only thing that matters in our lives. With that, thank you, Bhagwan, so much for giving me an opportunity to have lived the path of Nava Vidha Bhakti. but also for giving me the opportunity to reminisce about these experiences today so that it serves as a timely reminder that for the remainder of the life that I have on this planet, I should continue to tread the path that you have given me. Thank you all so much for your patient listening. Jai Sai.
A heartfelt thanks to Sinduja ma'am for an enlightening and thought-provoking speech. Your words truly resonated with all of us and left a lasting impact. On behalf of everyone present, thank you again, ma'am, for your valuable presence and for sharing your wisdom with us. Now, I request Vasanta Auntie to present a token of gratitude to Sinduja ma'am.